The crisis in Sri Lanka has taken a turn for the worse. The cops fired at an anti-government protester yesterday. They used live rounds. A protester died. Take a look. This happened in Ramukkana yesterday. This town is barely 60 miles away from the capital, Colombo. The demonstration was against the latest fuel price hike. Sri Lanka's main fuel retailer jacked up the prices by nearly 15%. The protesters wanted fuel. The cops responded by hitting them with bullets. The unprovoked firing has led to international condemnation. How will this incident impact the fate of the Rajapaksas? On Gravitas tonight, we will discuss. First, let's talk about yesterday's incident. The anti-government protests so far have been largely peaceful, but yesterday's events changed that. These protesters were there for more than 8 hours. The protest was peaceful, and then this happened. Like I told you before, one person died in this shooting. At least 29 are hurt. And this includes both protesters and police officers. 2 victims are in critical condition. American and European diplomats have condemned the incident. How does the police justify firing at unarmed protesters? Well, the cops say the protesters wanted to burn a fuel tanker, so they acted to contain the situation. This claim is yet to be authenticated. The footage from the site of the shooting shows no tanker. The shooting has not deterred the protesters, though. They turned up at the same location again today, the site of the shooting. Take a look. Public anger is exploding in some areas. There was unrest in Kandy yesterday. Reports say thousands of angry motorists and bus drivers took to the streets. They burned tires. The protests are getting bigger. Have a look at this map. The protests began almost a month back. Within weeks, the campaign has spread across the entire country. Sri Lanka has witnessed almost 300 protests already, and each and every one of them was directed at the Rajapaksas. What do they have to say about the violence? The Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has spoken out. He said he is deeply distressed by the violence. His brother, the President of Sri Lanka, had something to say too. Gotabaya Rajapaksa promised an impartial probe, but the anger of the protesters has not simmered.
What you see right behind me is one of the few protests that take place here at the Gotago village, which is in close proximity to the presidential secretariat, where the Occupy Galle Face protest has now entered more than 12 days of continuous protest, with citizens from all walks of life coming into this protest site throughout the day to voice their demands and their concerns against the Rajapaksa-led government with a simple and clear message, and that is for President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his government to step down immediately and to find proper solutions for the ongoing economic crisis here in Sri Lanka. Reporting from Colombo, I'm Dasunia Kauda.
The opposition is intensifying pressure on the Rajapaksas. Once again today, they raised their demand. The Rajapaksas need to go. The leader of opposition, Sajith from Premadasa, spoke out in Parliament. He called the Rajapaksa administration a murderous and terrorist government and pushed for the president's resignation.
At the previous party leaders' meeting, you said that the president has informed the speaker that he is ready to resign if all party leaders request for it. We as the opposition is ready to unanimously make this statement if you afford us with this opportunity.
Premadasa is referring to a report. It claims that the Speaker of the Parliament said that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa is ready to quit. That is, if the political parties request him to do so. The Speaker promptly issued a denial. It led to a heated exchange where Premadasa ended up calling him a blatant liar. The opposition is sticking to its guns. They are getting support from the former Chief Justice, Sarath Silva. He has called the Rajapaksa government a total failure.
There's a total failure of the government mechanism. The ministers have resigned. President is calling people to take up office of ministerial positions. They take up, next day resign. So there is no confidence, there is no purpose. In any event, under the constitution, if a motion of no confidence is passed, once again the thing turns over to the president.
There is no doubt the pressure on the Rajapaksas is building. They suffered another setback today. 3 more lawmakers withdrew their support. They will no longer back the Rajapaksa government. Will this outrage against the Rajapaksas impact Sri Lanka's bailout? Already, the International Monetary Fund has concerns. The IMF says Sri Lanka's debt is unsustainable. The IMF has a precondition before the bailout. It wants Colombo to contain its debt levels. Only then the IMF can lend some money to Sri Lanka. Here is a statement about this from the IMF. I'm quoting, "These considerations would need to be examined for a potential RFI for Sri Lanka once adequate assurances are obtained that debt sustainability will be resolved." So what does Sri Lanka really need to do? It needs to reach out to its creditors. The existing debt needs to be restructured. Sri Lanka now must settle concerns around its debt levels. What about the political instability? Shouldn't that be a factor? The bailout can bring stability to Sri Lanka's economy, but as long as the political crisis in Colombo continues, Sri Lanka may struggle to recover as a country. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.